So how come you're not doing a contempt motion? This is James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag HowiGotCustody. For the life of me, I can't figure out why dads don't do contempt motions. I got my daughter's mother found in contempt the first time I tried, when my daughter was about 6 months old, right before I got full custody. I got the mother found in contempt for 4 violations of our court-ordered visitation. Right after I got court-ordered visitation, she started violating it. Now, did I sit around and negotiate with her and work with her and try and figure out if she's going to do it and wait while I'm being deprived of my child before I even considered doing contempt? No. If somebody breaks into your house, do you find the person who did it and then negotiate with them and talk to them and say, will you please stop breaking into my house? And then they do it again, and then you capture them on video. Then they do it again. You got overwhelming evidence that they're doing it. And you want to negotiate with them. Somebody's violating you and taking something from you, and you want to negotiate with them. The only recourse when somebody breaks into my house and takes something is to call the police and have them put in jail, especially if they keep trying to do it. Yet, and most human beings would do that. Except when it comes to men, we're such sissy punk cowards and afraid of our baby's mom and afraid it's blasphemy to actually accuse her of what she's doing, that we don't do it. Most of the time when I talk to guys and they contact me and they say, hey, I haven't seen my daughter for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a couple months. My first question is, did you do a contempt motion? No. And why not? And, right there, I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just asking them as another dad who won contempt, why aren't you doing it? And I ask them, somebody kept stealing your car, would you ever call the cops? Yeah, absolutely. But when the person now, if somebody kidnapped your children, would you sit around and try and negotiate with the kidnapper? Or, I forget that Mel Gibson movie when his kid was kidnapped. He didn't negotiate with kidnappers. He kind of flipped it on them. But you would go hunting high and low, searching high and low for your kid. You would call the police. If you found out where the person was, you'd be breaking down their door and nabbing your kid. Except when the kidnapper is called mother. All of a sudden, guys lose their testicular fortitude and become a bunch of simps and wimps and crybabies. And if it's our property, we'll call the cops. If it's a total stranger kidnaps our kids, we'll hunt our kids down. But if it's the mother, we just sit back and take it. And this is what I always ask fathers. When a parent deprives a child of another parent, I have a whole video on the best interest of the child and how it's a basic life need. Kids need both parents. It's a psychological, emotional, and spiritual need. Nobody will argue that. Psychologists even tell you when you are together and married and living together, spend quality time with your kids. You're already there. Why do you have to engage in quality time? Because kids need the security, love, and stability and intimacy and the building of their psychological and emotions and self-esteem. They need that. You can't just be there sitting in the same house. You have to engage with the person. So it's very clear there's a psychological basic human need. And there's a statute in Washington that says it's a fundamental interest to the welfare of the child. The law actually recognized the basic life need of the child. It's just like the court system doesn't apply it properly. They think, oh, and every other weekend visitor is good enough. No, the law recognizes that the basic life need. So when parents are together and the children need both parents in that family structure, when it's ripped apart and the child is traumatized by that, what's the best case scenario? Seeing both parents as much as possible under those circumstances so the children continue to develop in their security, love, and their emotions that they get, emotional development they get from the parent being there for them, and that security and that affirmation from a male that kids can only get from a male. And the court system deprives us of all that. So my point is, given all that information, when a parent withholds a child from another parent, what are they doing? And some guys will say, well, kind of not being nice or depriving them of love or whatever. One time I asked the dad, what's the most important thing a child needs? TV time and playtime. My gender is so stupid sometimes, it's ridiculous. And I could talk to you guys like this because I've been where you've been. and I was in dire straits like you were or are now. I've been where you are. So I'm telling you to grow a pair and stop being stupid and actually care about your children and stop being scared like a little bunch of sissies. And you new wives and girlfriends know what I'm talking about, because you're sick and tired of these men being a bunch of chumps and a bunch of cowards, because you're not afraid of the baby's mom. You're not afraid of women. Only my gender is. So the question is, when you deprive a child of the basic life need of another parent, what do you call that? Here's a hint. It's 2 words that start with a C and an A. Child abuse. If you deprive the child of water, food, or air, you're committing child abuse. The next most important thing in a child's life is that non-custodial father, or the relationship with both parents. That's a basic life need to the development of the child. It damages a child when they don't have both parents involved. So when you deprive a child of something, you're committing child abuse. So why wouldn't you go to court and hold the person accountable to get them to stop committing child abuse? If the daycare is beating up your kids, do you negotiate with the daycare? Do you talk to them and they continue to do it and you're waiting and hoping and seeing they change? See how asinine and stupid you are when you don't hold the mother accountable? You need to grow a pair if you care about your kids. If you don't care about your kids, then stop whining and crying and complaining if the mother's violating the court order or withholding the children from you. Wake up, fathers. Wake up, men. Now, I'm not telling you got to do a contempt motion, but I know for a fact contempt is the only remedy and recourse, speaking from a legal perspective, being a paralegal and working at the courthouse. Contempt is the only legal recourse when somebody's violating a parenting plan. In Washington State, there's a law called custodial interference, but that's if you withhold a child for a long period of time, months and months, and they don't even enforce that most of the time. So contempt is the only recourse. So why aren't you doing it? I get guys saying, well, I'm scared, or that'll make me look bad, or the lawyer says, don't attack the mother. Why not? These attorneys don't attack the mother, don't go for full custody, don't fight for guys, and they turn around and say, guys never get anything, so you won't get anything. Why don't they get anything? Because you never try. That's like Mississippi courts in the 40s, and a lawyer has a black defendant, and he's accused of raping a white woman, and he didn't do it, but he says, cop a plea, and you'll get life in prison. And he says, but I didn't do it. And he says, well, I know the judge, and he's a grand wizard in the Ku Klux Klan, and you're gonna get the chair if you don't cop a plea to life. So take the deal or get fried. So, and because the lawyers aren't in there fighting the culture of racism or the Klan in the court system in the Mississippi in the 40s, the culture stays there. So in family court, the lawyers are not fighting against this anti-father culture, so it continues to go on that you don't blaspheme a mother, you don't talk bad about her, you don't do contempts. So when a guy says, I want to do a contempt motion, and tells his lawyer to do contempt motion, like, we don't want to do that, we'll look like we're on the attack. So what? My first judge said, I can't believe you guys have so much conflict in this case. Look at all this paperwork, when I was just trying to get visitation. I got 0 visitation from the commissioner. I appealed it to a judge called a motion for revision in Washington. That judge gave me 5 days a week visitation. 5 days a week. And I had 0 in the same courthouse in front of a family law commissioner. And what did I do? I kept fighting and fighting. And the judge actually said, I can't believe there's so much conflict with you guys. And you guys are out there scared to hear that from a judge. And guess what? That was 1 sentence from a judge who said, you guys got conflict. Then she gave me what I wanted and needed. And for the rest of my life, or the rest of that court case, I was going to have 5 days a week with my daughter. Now, are you stupid, ignorant, moronic cowards more concerned about a judge saying, I don't like all the conflict? Or would you be happy with 5 days a week visitation? So I'm speaking for somebody who succeeded in contempt. I don't understand why you guys don't do contempt. I don't understand why you don't grow a pair. And you need to wake up, because that's the recourse. You would do it with your property. You would do it if your kid was kidnapped by a stranger, but you bow down and you worship a mother, or you listen to some stupid jackass hustling con attorney. I got custody without an attorney. I got the mother found in contempt and humiliated a 17-year veteran attorney. The winning court order is on my website if you don't believe me. Or you can go ahead and trust all these fathers' rights groups that have a bunch of members and leaders who lost in court, and follow them because they feel like they're going to help change the system. If I was getting violated, I would do contempt. It's the only recourse, and I'm not sitting back and not caring about my relationship with my daughter. I'm fighting for it like a parent who cares about it.